right, well, welcome to Ascent Church. My name is Mark Fowler, pastor here at Ascent, and it's so nice to have you guys together it is Halloween, it is Reformation Day, and it is the Lord's Day. So this is quite a day that we get to gather and celebrate together. And today we're actually continuing as a church in this series, Wisdom, Grace, and Relationships. And had a great first week last week. I hope if you weren't able to join us, you were able to listen online. It was such a great Sunday just to be able to receive from God in the book of Proverbs. And I feel like the book of Proverbs can be somewhat misread, misused sometimes. So I'm really praising God for the way that He just ministering His love for us, His grace for us through this book. And so today we're actually going to be continuing the series in a second key relationship, and that is dating. Speaking of the relationship between a man and woman in that time kind of leading up to marriage. Sometimes they call it courtship or dating. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today from Proverbs chapter 9. So if you would follow with me beginning in verse 1. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered her beasts. She has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her young women to call from the highest places in the town. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. Come, eat of my bread and drink of my wine I have mixed. This is God's word. So Lady Wisdom has prepared an incredible feast. She has these fine cuts of meat. She has these fine wines for us to drink. So she has a banquet, a feast prepared for us. And as you take the parallel of this to our topic today, dating, for those young man or a young woman that are in the beginning stages of moving towards a relationship like marriage, or if you are married, in this, God has prepared a feast. He has a banquet. He has an incredible gift for you. Probably the greatest gift that you will have in your life, aside from God and His presence and salvation in your life, probably the greatest gift will be the husband or wife that He is providing for you. That will be one of His greatest blessings for you. But the blessing, the virtue of Lady Wisdom would seem to be a virtue that we don't believe is so good in general to this promise that God has for us, that Lady Wisdom has for us in Proverbs 9. And I say that because I was reading this study this week. I was really blown away by what I found. And this was a study that was done in our country. It was asking some couples through this ministry called Waiting Till Marriage. It's an organization that supports abstinence, and I was trying to read a little bit about kind of perspectives on dating, and they had a stat there that blew me away. It said this: 97% of the United States population will engage in sex before marriage. 97%. I was so shocked by that number that I actually cross-referenced a few more sources just to see, is that true? 97%. I mean, that's astounding. And the other thing, think about this. So 70% of Americans identify themselves as Christian. So that means this is not like we've padded the stats some with, atheists that don't believe in the kind of, moral, upbringing that a Christian might understand or know. But 97%, that means the vast majority of this number would be those that have some kind of Christian understanding and yet decide that they want to, engage in sex before they are married. Now, as we bring up this topic of dating, I feel like, this kind of tells me that it's definitely a question that's going to have to be faced. If you're in a kind of a dating situation, this is going to be a challenge. Even if you are defying the odds and you're one of the few that actually believe that I want to wait until I'm married, chances are you have friends that are in your circle, that are in your life that probably are not, and they're telling you the other way. That was definitely my experience. So I grew up when I was kind of, engaging very slowly into this whole idea of dating as a young high schooler, young and naive. I had my first girlfriend. And so this girlfriend and I, we had gone on a few dates, and I had just got my driver's license. So I went on my first car date where, just the guy and the girl and no chaperones, no parents. So I go on this car date, and we get at the end of the date, and I kissed her. Like the first time I had kissed this girlfriend, and it was, it was exciting. I mean, I was a high schooler first time. I was like, just pumped about this. So I tell my friend, I had a high school friend, and I was like, wanted to share this, exciting new development. And you know what he says back to me? He says, "Is that all?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's all." "What do you mean, is that all?" But it didn't take me long to my teenage brain to kind of put together exactly what he was trying to infer there. And I would say, based on, this kind of 97% statistic, chances are you had friends speaking into your life similar to this friend that I had. It's kind of like, you feel like, why is it like this? Why am I getting pulled in this other direction? And the suspicion that I have, in particular for us as believers, is that we truly don't understand what God is offering to us, what Lady Wisdom is offering us, the banquet that has been set for us. I truly don't believe we understand what God wants to give to us. And so, what I want us to see is this beautiful picture of the thing God wants to do in our relationships, in our marriages, in that husband-wife relationship, in the boyfriend-girlfriend relationship leading up to marriage. What a beautiful thing that Lady Wisdom wants for us. And so what I want to do today is look at, first of all, what Lady Wisdom is offering to us in this banquet that she has. Second, I want to talk about the alternative offered to us by the woman folly. And then finally, I want to see God's provision for us that he's made for us through Christ. And the concept I want us to see today is this: Jesus paid the price so that you could join Lady Wisdom's great banquet. So let's begin. Let's talk about this great banquet that we have prepared for us by Lady Wisdom. So verse 2 says this: Lady Wisdom has slaughtered her beast. She has mixed her wine. So the work being done here, the investment being made here by Lady Wisdom, by God, is a tremendous investment in terms of all the provisions that are made for this feast. But notice also the preparations being made here. So slaughtered her beast. So the wines that are being mixed here, all of this mixed wine. So think about that process. You go from grapes being, then the juice being years, months and years of preparation to get to a point of having this wine that you can serve. And then that is served to the guests for just a moment that you get a chance to partake of all of this months and even years of effort to bring that wine to the table. The meats that were served. So this, not only the work that's done in terms of, here is this food, this great food I want to serve to you, but also to go from, livestock in the field to this prepared dish that's actually on the table in front of you. This is a great time of preparation being done to serve you in this way. So when I was on one of my trips to Chicago, I went to Michael Jordan's Steakhouse. So Michael Jordan's Steakhouse is a very nice, very expensive, exclusive kind of restaurant, and it's right down there in downtown Chicago. And so in this restaurant, they have, of course, USDA prime cuts, incredible cuts of meat. But each of these steaks actually has a 45-day process that they go through to be prepared for what they will actually serve that night in the restaurant. And so, yes, the steak that I had that night was incredible. Still one of the best steaks I've ever had. But this is the banquet that Lady Wisdom is preparing. All of this investment, all of this preparation to give to you this feast. And so, when you think about dating and marriage, how does this look? So, God has prepared a great feast, this banquet that he wants to serve to us. It is a relationship that God is building between two people that are committed to each other in a covenant way. That says, I will love you. I will care for you. I will serve you. This relationship is such a sacrificial act that's being made in terms of a couple that covenants together and says, this is the way that I want to love you. And if you compared this to, let's say, I'm going to buy you a diamond ring, a new car, I'm going to buy you a house. I mean, what would be comparable to you saying that I'm going to spend the rest of my life serving and caring and loving you? I mean, this till death do us part. I mean, this is the highest thing that we could offer to somebody else, is that I'm gonna be yours. I'm gonna love you in this covenant kind of way. That is a tremendous a blessing from God. That's the kind of relationship that God has designed in terms of marriage. And it's part of that gift of me giving myself to you, you giving yourself to me. Inside of that context is where the gift of sexual intimacy is designed. That's its appropriate place. That's where you see the value that God has set for what is the worth of, the value of this sexual intimacy. Well, God has said all the way back in Genesis 2, God has said the value of this is a lifetime commitment between a husband and wife. That's what it's worth. That's what it looks like. That's the value that's being raised up in terms of this relationship, to have this kind of sexual intimacy. Now, how much greater is that value compared to, say, the 97% crowd we talked about earlier, where the perspective might very well just be, I love you, but we don't need to be married. Tim Keller counters this attitude. Pastor Tim Keller, speaking on this topic, says this: a wedding promise is proof that your love is actually at a marriage level. So this is the high value that God puts on marriage, on this relationship between husband and wife, on sexual intimacy. This is the high value. This is the feast that God has prepared, that he wants to give to us in marriage. And so if you are dating, if you're in that time in your life where you're kind of leading up to where you are going to one day be married to, a young man or a young woman that's in your life, well, then in that relationship, you don't have the full commitment of I'm married, but you want to reflect that kind of sacrificial love and care and serving that is a part of, the future commitment of being in a married relationship. And you want to engage in that dating relationship in a way that shows respect for, I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to look forward to the great feast that God is preparing for us one day inside of that covenant commitment that I want to make to you, that is marriage. I'm going to have that kind of respect for you. And that's what's going to characterize the relationship that we're going to have together. I'm going to engage in a relationship with you that is virtuous, that is sitting at the table, the banquet that Lady Wisdom is preparing, and enjoy that with you, and handle our relationship in a way that looks forward to all of the things that God has now and in the future once we're married. So this is the banquet that Lady Wisdom has prepared for us. But not everyone seems to be ready for this kind of a lifestyle, a life commitment. And so I want to talk a little bit about the alternative. What is the offer that's being made, the meal being served by the Lady Folly? So let's look at this alternative in verse 13. The woman Folly is loud. She is seductive and knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house. She takes a seat at the highest places of town, calling to those who pass by. Whoever is simple, let him turn here. And to him who lacks sense, she says, stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. So the woman Folly is prepared a meal. She's inviting you into the meal that she's prepared, just like Lady Wisdom. And notice where she is in this invitation. It says the highest places of town. In verse 3, the Lady Wisdom was in the same exact place, offering you to come to her great banquet that she was serving. So Lady Wisdom has gone to the same place to offer to you to come and join her in this meal. So she's presenting herself like this legitimate option, this option that you should consider to come with her to her, to her meal. It's kind of like when you go to the airport and you see all these different services that are kind of out there, like a shuttle van that takes you to like your resort, or you have like a limo driver with your names on it. So you kind of come off in the airport like, which one am I going to choose? And guess what? They all look pretty good at the airport. They all look like, hey, that looks like a cool resort. Maybe I'll go there. I was thinking about Caleb, my son. He is getting married in January, and he's going to be traveling to Cancun, Mexico for his honeymoon. I'm thinking, you get on the wrong shuttle bus in Cancun, and you're not sure where you're going to end up, right? I mean, you never know. So you want to know kind of, but when you're at the airport, they all look pretty good. I can get on this or that one, and you could, end up someplace that you didn't want to be. And that's the woman Folly. She's there presenting herself as this option for you to come and follow her. But she's not taking you. That shuttle that's leaving the airport is not taking you to the great feast. Let's look at the meal that woman Folly is preparing. Verse 17. It says, stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. So what we see here, there is zero tolerance for waiting for anything. There's no prepared meats being, brought to the table. There's no wines being mixed. You're looking at bread and water somewhere in an alley. That's the meal being offered to you by the woman Folly. And this meal that's being served is stolen. And this woman Folly, she makes no secret about that. So part of the allure of her pitch there in the high places that she's talking to you is that it's stolen. It's kind of like this sort of edge of excitement of, hey, this is kind of cool. You should come with me and go to this, this place. So she's promoting this as, come and partake. This is the sexual intimacy between a husband and wife being impatiently stolen from this marriage covenant as God's designed, like Lady Wisdom has set it out. And when you think about this, the fact that it's stolen is very evident. It's very well known. It's not like the Bible is unclear about this. It's called adultery in a married relationship. It's called fornication if it's before marriage. It's not condoned in the New Testament nor the Old Testament. So, it's very clear that it is in fact not the heart of God. It's not Lady Wisdom's way. It is always an act of departing from wisdom into folly. But still, the most disappointing fact of this meal served by woman Folly is that it is eaten in secret. So you go to the secret to get away from eyes that might see what you're doing. You want to be not in the light. You want to be in the dark. You want to be away from People that might see what it is that you are in fact partaking in, this stolen thing that you have decided to go after. And so, this is you going away from the light to the dark. This is you hiding from God. Trying to say, God, I don't want you to see what I'm doing. I want to be in the dark, away from the light. You don't want to have your friends see what you're doing. You don't want to have your parents perhaps know about your promiscuity. So you want to hide from that. That's where this eating in secret comes into play. You're trying to be very guarded and cagey about, don't let people see what I'm doing. And the worst part about this is that, you know what the absolute headliner is of the banquet that Lady Wisdom is preparing? It's not the venue. It's not the food. It's the guest list. Because Lady Wisdom is there. God himself is at that banquet. That's what makes it the place to be. That's why you want to go. And the woman folly, that is departing from this great banquet to go and hide from, go away from God himself, from this light, from his presence, so that I can have this bread and water in a back alley somewhere. So verse 18 finishes the description of this meal offered by the woman folly, saying this: "But he does not know the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of Sheol." So when you got on that shuttle bus at the airport, you didn't know that this is where it was taking you. Proverbs 17 actually is even more direct in its language here. It actually says, all at once he follows her as an ox goes to the slaughter. He does not know that it will cost him his life. So you want to be away from God, away from the light, in secret. This is what it's going to cost you, your life. So if bread and water in an alley with the woman folly is going to cost you your life, what does the banquet that Lady Wisdom is preparing, what would it cost to enter into that banquet? Well, Isaiah 55 describes the ticket purchasing process for the feast of Lady Wisdom. Listen to Isaiah 55. "Come, all you who are thirsty, come to the waters. You who have no money, come and buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without cost. Why spend money on what is not bread and labor for what does not satisfy? Listen to me and eat what is good, and you will delight in the richest of fare." The richest of fare. This is the banquet of Lady Wisdom that we're being invited into, that God is inviting us into and saying, this is what I have prepared for you. And the cost, look at the cost. So, the price to get into this banquet, this incredible feast that Lady Wisdom has prepared, this price is so high you could never go. You could never devise a scheme to find a way to get into this party. This is the best people with the best food, the best life. This is the best thing that you could achieve. And there's no way that you could ever do enough, ever find a way to be able to get into this party. And so God had to make a way at the cost of his son who died on the cross. He paid the price that you could come and sit at this table, a price that you could never pay. He paid so that you could sit at that table, enjoy this feast that Lady Wisdom has prepared for you. And I want you to notice who it is that is invited. Come, all you who are thirsty. All you who come with no money. So who are the ones getting invited here to this banquet by Lady Wisdom? It is ones that are thirsty, the ones that have no money. It's not going to the ones that are popular, to the ones that have money to be able to get their way into this. It's also not based on your age. So if you're young, it doesn't mean that I can't now partake of this good banquet that Lady Wisdom has. And it also doesn't mean that if you're too old and you've made mistakes and now I've missed my chance. I had that time where I was in the high places and I heard the offer of Lady Wisdom and the woman Folly, and I chose poorly. And now here I am. This is saying that's not the basis of who it is that gets invited to this banquet, to the richest affair. It is those who are thirsty. It is those that have no money, no means of their own to be able to get into this banquet of Lady Wisdom. Jesus paid that price so that you could come to this banquet. Now, I wanted to share a story from former pastor Joshua Harris, and he was talking about actually a woman, Anna, who was describing her wedding day. Beautiful day, her wedding day, and she is, describing this event. She says that it was a beautiful sunny day. Sun's coming into this church building where she had her friends and family all gathered, and so there's this great scene that you can see of this wedding for Anna. Anna's walking down the aisle. She's the woman of the hour. They're praying, here comes the bride, and you can see her coming up to meet with her soon-to-be husband. David is his name. And so she takes David's hand, and they're about to exchange their vows, and then the unexpected happens. There is a girl that stands up in the congregation, and then another girl, and another girl, until 6 different girls stand up in the congregation and come stand next to David at the front of the church. So Anna sees this, and she says to David, "Is this some kind of joke?" And David says back to her, "I'm sorry, Anna, these girls are from my past, but they don't mean anything to me now." And so Anna begins to cry. And then she wakes up. It was a dream. Thankfully, it was not her actual wedding day, but she had this dream that shook her like, this is my wedding day? This is the broken picture that most of us have come to expect when it comes to dating relationships, between boyfriend and girlfriend, between married relationships, between husband and wife. You have this beautiful day, this beautiful thing that's been marred by sin, failure, compromise, brokenness. It's like this is the broken picture that we are looking and facing in our lives. And when you think about a wedding, it really has this very storybook feel, right? It's got this great promise of, I've got this beautiful day, this magical day that I get a chance to partake in. And part of the magic is all of this hope and expectation of what is God going to do in this relationship. And you think about that and you're like, all of this hope in front of me, and this is what I have decided? So what would Jesus say if he was there that day at Anna's wedding? What Jesus would say is, "Come, you who have no money, come to me and eat what is good, the richest of fare." What Jesus would do is walk in the middle of that ceremony, right in the middle of the church, by each one of these six girls standing next to David, and say, "Forgiven." And then he would walk and stand next to Anna and David and say, "Redeemed." Because all of us are somewhere in this picture of that wedding day for Anna, where we have this brokenness, this broken picture of failure, of this marred. And it could be that we have the dating aspect of this where we're in the middle of trying to have a virtuous relationship, but it feels like, you're getting pulled by your own desires, you're getting pulled by the advice of your friends to where that's not where I'm going anymore. Or you're in a marriage relationship and you're like, I had some version of that Anna and David wedding day play out for me. And I look back and I'm like, well, here I am now, what do I do? And this is where Jesus' invitation to you is, come. You who have no money, you who have no way, no means to be able to partake of that day because of your own merits, Jesus has paid the price. Jesus has purchased your seat at the table. He has given you that forgiveness from that thing in your life, that marred picture. He has paid the price. And not only has Jesus brought that forgiveness that you could not have earned, but Jesus is also the one setting the table. He's the one putting this great feast before you. He is the one that's creating, transforming those relationships so that you could have that beautiful banquet that Lady Wisdom is preparing in your life, where you have this relationship that has love, commitment, intimacy. This is what Jesus is preparing. This is the table that he is setting for you. Receive that grace today. Let's pray. Jesus, we come to the feast today. We come to sit at the table that you have prepared for us. Jesus, I pray right now that you would minister that forgiveness and that work of redemption in every heart here today. In whatever that area of brokenness might be, that they could come and sit at the table and eat of the incredibly rich fare that you have provided. Your grace has provided for us. Lord, we receive it with such thankfulness, Lord, because of what you have done for us. We pray in Jesus' name.